was Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. The card had Finn Balor and Adam Cole in the opener, and it had Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler in the main event, giving us one of the coolest female matches I have ever seen. And what it gave us 4 years later is the match that should main event WrestleMania 40. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and we're here to fantasy book one more time. And this is something I've been beating over the head for a long ass time. This is the match. This is the match that defeated AEW for one night in the shambolic disaster that was the Wednesday Night War, and it should be the main event for WrestleMania this year. And I'm going to tell you why, because I've been thinking. I've been doing a lot of thinking. You know, the last one I did was the Rise and Fall of the Hurt Business, which, you know, got me mixed reviews, as I thought it would. This one is a lot clearer. This is not like bringing a group together, tearing a group down, whatever. This is just two people that really need to fight at WrestleMania. And how do we get there? And I have to start with where we are right now, which is Payback. Right now at Payback, you've got Rhea Ripley taking on Raquel Rodriguez. You've got Trish Stratus taking on Becky Lynch in a cage match, and Shayna Baszler is not on the card. Key point. So where I'm going to start from here is the Monday Night Raw after Payback. Now, assuming that Rhea Ripley defeats Raquel Rodriguez, I'm going to say she injures her again for the purposes of my story. Not that I want to see her get injured again, obviously, but it works for the purpose of my story. And obviously, I'm going to go on the assumption that Becky Lynch has defeated Trish Stratus in the cage match. Zoe Stark is out of the way, etc. So what we're going to start with is a completely random match on Raw. We're not going to hear from Rhea Ripley. We're not going to hear from Becky Lynch. We are going to have a random episode of Raw, but a random women's match on this post-Payback episode of Raw. I've picked Nikki Cross versus Emma, but it could realistically be anybody. And it's going to be interrupted by Shayna Baszler, and she's just going to come in there and smoke both of them. Not because she has a problem with them, but because she's coming out there to make a point. Grabs a microphone, talks about being pissed off, talks about, you know, I just defeated Ronda Rousey, why am I being so overlooked? I'm not in the title picture, I'm not facing any superstars, I'm not on any PLEs, etc. I'm the best, I'm next in line. If anybody wants to come and prove me wrong, they can. She will then be interrupted by Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch will come out there and said, well, what'd you do on the weekend? I just defeated a patented WWE Hall of Famer in a steel cage match. What did you do? Oh, you didn't do much. You weren't even on the card. I'm pretty sure I'm next in line, and I will take on anybody that thinks otherwise. Now, crucially, what I want to do with this, they're not going to fight each other, and they're going to take, again, some inspiration from old Black and Gold NXT. If you recall, and nobody's going to think that this is anything too huge these days because Bull Dempsey's no longer in the company and people don't give Baron Corbin the credit that he deserves. Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey in the early days of NXT had this, which one of us is a bigger badass kind of feud going on, but they didn't do it. I mean, they eventually fought at a takeover, obviously, but they didn't do it by fighting each other and beating each other up and attacking each other and whatever. What they did was they had this really big game of like one-upsmanship. And if Bull Dempsey defeated his opponent in 2 minutes, Baron Corbin defeated his opponent later on that night in 1.5 minutes, and they gave each other a stare down, and they were keeping an eye on each other's matches. And they didn't like each other, but they had that weird sort of competitive respect. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to try and do with this story between Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler. The following week, Nikki Cross does accept the challenge from Shayna Baszler because she's one of the ones that was obliterated in the match the previous week. She wants revenge. She gets to the door, I guess you could say to the pay window first, and, you know, wants to get her licks in on Shayna Baszler. She has a match, obviously loses, and Emma, who is also in the match, doesn't get a chance to get her hands on Shayna Baszler, but, you know, Becky Lynch comes in with anything you can do, I can do better, and she says, I'll face you. Obviously, Shayna Baszler beats Cross, and Becky Lynch beats Emma. Now, this starts a rolling set of weeks on weeks on weeks of open challenges. And as we go through these open challenges, you get Shayna Baszler defeating Dana Brooke, Indy Hartwell, Candice LeRae, Liv Morgan, which will be played up as a big deal because Liv Morgan is a former champion, Tegan Nox, and Zoe Stark once again. Zoe Stark I'll leave to the end only because Zoe Stark was one of the first ones that Shayna Baszler stepped up to the night after she beat Ronda Rousey when her face looked like fucking hamburger. So that would be one to throw in near the end. Becky Lynch, not to be dismayed, also walking out, also, you know, wanting to take a bite out of the roster to prove her point, takes out Chelsea Green, takes out Natty Neidhart, takes out Sonya Deville, in the sense that this is my fantasy booking, and in my fantasy booking, Sonya Deville's not injured. Steps up her game to a powerhouse like Piper Niven, takes on a weirdo like Valhalla, and takes on somebody with the skill of Xia Li. Why are we beeping? Why is that a thing? That does not need to be a thing. Now, the whole time this is going on, the whole time these two ladies, Baszler and Becky Lynch, are having this game of one-upsmanship with each other, Rhea Ripley's in the background, you know, sitting on a big fucking chair like a la Roman Reigns with all of her Judgment Day buddies, joking about how these two are fighting over her, because they basically are. They basically are fighting over her. They want the women's big gold belt, because that belt is fucking gorgeous. Anyways, so she starts to mock them. She starts to laugh at them. She starts to, you know, give the little golf clap after each one of their matches. A couple of times she even steps out onto the rampway and gives them a nod or gives them a shake of the head or whatever. And then to mock them, she does her own, in inverted commas, open challenge. And for all these weeks that these ladies are going through the rest of the roster, she's calling out local jobbers, basically female James Ellsworths. And then Dominic Mysterio will mention to her at some point, it's like, well, you know, we've got a whole other pool of challengers you could go after, mommy. And then she just starts to do the same thing in NXT. You get cool matches. You get another rematch with her and Lyra Valkyria, which would be great. Nikita Lyons would be another cool one when she's back from injury, because there's not the size discrepancy there. I'm sure there's not as much of a power discrepancy. That could be a cool match. Thea Hale, I mean, I don't want to see Thea Hale get destroyed again because she's already destroyed enough, but that could be a cool match. Roxanne Perez is a rematch we need to see, because remember, I think it's over a year ago now that Rhea Ripley was chosen in a Pick Your Poison challenge to face on with Roxanne Perez, and that was really, really good. We need to see that again. She's going to take on Gigi Dolan, and she's going to take on Fallon Henley, just because the crowd really loves them, and she'll get booed properly for destroying them. So, lost my train of thought there. Baszler has her, you know, pile of victims. Becky has her pile of victims. Rhea Ripley has her own quote-unquote pile of victims, which are, you know, jobber locals and developmentals. And the contrast between all three of those becomes stark. But what's coming up? Survivor Series is coming up. And all three of them look towards Survivor Series, because yes, I know we normally hate it, but it works for the storyline. We're going to do brand versus brand. We're going to do brand supremacy. And Baszler, Becky, and Ripley, none of them to be outdone by the other ones, they all issue open challenges to SmackDown. We go on to the Survivor Series, and in straight sets, Baszler defeats Asuka, which is awesome, because for a long time, the two of them were considered to be the two biggest badasses outside of the Four Horsewomen in all of WWE. Baszler defeating Asuka, huge feather in her cap. Asuka's pissed off right now because she doesn't have her championship anymore. She's raring to go. Baszler's raring to go. We know what they did to each other in the Elimination Chamber. Awesome. Becky defeats Charlotte Flair. And yes, I know people think I'm really, really biased towards Charlotte Flair, but Charlotte Flair doesn't fit into this story. They are two members of the Horsewomen, and that story, I don't even need to say anything. That story writes itself. Pick out whatever parts of WWE/NXT/Four Horsewomen history that you want to put in a video package to plug up that match as well. And because so many people want to see it at WrestleMania, and in my booking you're not going to see it at WrestleMania, but I'll be nice. I'll give it to you here. Rhea Ripley decisively destroys Bianca Belair. So they're all at a tandem with each other. They're all coming off of big wins at Survivor Series. They've all got a pile of bodies in their wake. Whatever the case may be, we come to the December pay-per-view. Now, Rhea Ripley is the dominant champion. She's a fucking superstar. She's a star in her own right, and she's the biggest star in the biggest faction in WWE right now. She marches into Adam Pearce's office and demands that they rename the pay-per-view, you know? When DX was at the top of their hype, they got a pay-per-view named after them, and it was DX in Your House. So this December, on December 30th, because it's the closest you can get to New Year's without actually being on New Year's, we are going to bring back WWE Judgment Day as the name of the pay-per-view, because that's just an obnoxious thing that the Judgment Day would do. And Adam Pearce is fine with it. He shrugs his shoulders. He says, you know what? It's a good bit of nostalgia. It's a good bit of a nod to everything that you and your teammates have established over the past couple of years. Cool. But here's two things that you need to know. One, Raquel Rodriguez is back from injury again, and I've given her a last chance title shot against you at Judgment Day. If she loses to you again, you never have to defend against her again. But also, look at what Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler have done. I'm giving them a 30-minute Iron Woman match, and the winner of that match will face you, Rhea Ripley, at the Royal Rumble. Now, Rhea's pissed. Rhea takes all that anger into Judgment Day, and now it's going to sound funny me saying that, I know. She not only defeats Raquel Rodriguez, ensuring that she never has to face her again, she also re-injures her again. Just because I'm an asshole. Now, 30-minute Iron Woman match, the #1 contendership for that match at the Royal Rumble, Baszler versus Becky, has Rhea Ripley on commentary. And throughout the entire match, the commentators, which for a pay-per-view would be Michael Cole and Corey Graves, so this would work out perfectly, they're badgering her. They're trying to get past all of her sarcasm and all of her bravado to say, who would you rather face at the Royal Rumble? You've looked at these two women. Both of them have set a beeline for you since Payback. How do you feel about both of them? Which one would you rather face? Rhea Ripley on commentary the entire time is going to laugh it off and say, it doesn't matter who it is. I'm going to destroy them, blah, blah, blah. Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch realistically beat the piss out of each other for 30 minutes straight, and it ends at a bell and the score is 0-0. And the referee doesn't want to leave it as a tie. You know, the crowd's chanting, give them more time, give them 5 more minutes, whatever. The referee acquiesces to the audience's request and offers them 5 more minutes. But crucially, this is where it's going to be crucial. Before the bell rings, Ripley gets up from commentary, storms the ring, and cracks Shayna Baszler in the face with a steel chair. The bell rings, Becky Lynch gets the win in less than 5 seconds, and she's the new #1 contender. Now, this does a lot of things all at once. It makes Baszler mad, because she just got fucked over, and we'll touch on that again shortly. Becky Lynch is really conflicted because she didn't want to win this way. Obviously, she's the Snow White babyface in this situation, but also there's a title shot at stake. I'll get my pin now, and I'll make my apologies later. And Rhea Ripley has sort of put it out there without really meaning to, who she's actually afraid of. Clearly, she's actually afraid of Shayna Baszler if she would rather face Becky Lynch. I think everything wins. It puts a little bit of a crack in Rhea Ripley's, superstar championship confidence, whatever. It means you got Baszler waiting in the wings. You got Becky versus Rhea, which is another match we've always wanted, going into the Royal Rumble. It's a great match. At the Royal Rumble, Becky versus Ripley is a great match. It's as great as you want it to be. It's as superstar versus superstar as you want it to be. And it goes long until Baszler cracks past all the security. We put security around the ring so that these two can have a match uninterrupted. Baszler obviously crashes through all of that security, cracks Ripley in the face for the DQ. Once again, now, I get it. I know the criticism of that is going to be that you had a shady finish at the December pay-per-view, and now you've got a DQ at the Royal Rumble. It's going to make sense, trust me, because it does a couple of things. She gets revenge for the loss at Judgment Day. The DQ means that Becky Lynch lost, which means that Becky Lynch does not get a rematch. Means that Becky Lynch is not a contender for the title anymore because she had her title thing and lost. She leaves the ring. She doesn't even get on microphone, but she grabs one of the cameras and sort of shouts down the camera lens, a la, like a Kevin Owens or a Jey Uso. Shouts right down the camera lens, kind of laughing to herself because her adrenaline's all hyped up and whatever, and says, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not even done tonight." She then goes on to enter at #1 in the Royal Rumble, run the gambit of the Royal Rumble, and win, last eliminating, you guessed it, Bianca Belair. Because fuck Bianca Belair. Coming out of that, we come to Raw. And Becky wants back in. She got screwed out of her title shot. Baszler's afraid of her. Ripley's afraid of her. Everybody's afraid of her. Nobody wants me to be in this match because they know I'm a danger to that championship. And say, okay, fine, cool, whatever. Adam Pearce sets up a match between her and Baszler at Fastlane and says, if you can get past Shayna Baszler, you're not going to take her spot at WrestleMania because she won the Rumble, last eliminating Bianca Belair, by the way. But you will be added to the match, and we'll make it a triple threat match. Now, this is cool. This is a lot of big names. This is 3 big names we all want to come together, but we want something more decisive. We need something. And Shayna Baszler needs one last hurdle to climb before she gets to her WrestleMania moment. Shayna Baszler, and I wouldn't have predicted this, and I wouldn't have suggested this a year ago. Shayna Baszler decisively defeats Becky Lynch at Fastlane, keeping her out of the WrestleMania match. She can go off and do something else. It's fine. She can go off and chase Io Sky. That match would be fucking awesome. But it solidifies Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler for the main event of Night 2. Hear me. Hear me, Night 2. Here's the thing. Rhea Ripley got fucked last year. She should have been, and this is not a dig at the Usos or Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens. Love all those guys. Rhea Ripley won the Women's Royal Rumble. She should have been the main event of Night 1 last year when we did Cody and Roman at WrestleMania on Night 2, because that was the actual main event. If we do Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns Night 2 at WrestleMania again this year, it should be on Night 1. It's a rematch. It's a rematch that storyline-wise doesn't even make sense, which most people don't want to hear. Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley gets solidified, not only for WrestleMania, but for Night 2 of WrestleMania's main event. And the rest of that build, now that the rest of the roster is out of the way, now that the conflicts with SmackDown and NXT are out of the way, now that all the other bullshit is out of the way, now the final hurdle, Becky Lynch, is out of the way, the rest of the build towards WrestleMania is Shayna Baszler flashing back to December 18th, 2019. Do you remember that? Do you remember when I was on top of the world and you came and took it away from me? You came in with something to prove. I was on top. I had just defeated Ember Moon at a takeover and run wild with that championship until you came and knocked me off my perch. Well, look at you now. Now I come in. I've had rough starts. I've been overlooked. I'm the one with something to prove right now, and you're the one that's on top of the world. And I'm about to knock you off your perch. And you guys will be surprised by this because you guys know how much I love Judgment Day. You know how much I love Rhea Ripley specifically. I have said since the Mae Young Classic, since the Mae Young Classic 2, since NXT UK, since NXT, and I say it again now, Rhea Ripley, fucking star. I would have Shayna Baszler win this. I would have Shayna Baszler walk out, end of the night, hand held high, title held high, to close WrestleMania. And we already have a Rhea Ripley better than the Rhea Ripley that we had in NXT. You get Shayna Baszler up to that same thing. And once it's happened, you can run that feud for another 6 months. But you do it by giving it to Shayna Baszler on the biggest platform possible. And this is how NXT, you hear me talk about NXT, proper black and gold, rock and roll, Triple H NXT, was the peak of most of wrestling, but specifically women's wrestling. You can prove right here, right now, how NXT, that specific good version of NXT, gave us next year's WrestleMania main event 4 years ago. It'll be fucking awesome. I'd love to hear what you guys think. This is just some thoughts that have been rattling around in my brain, and I've finally got them down on paper, and I finally spit them out to you guys. That's how this all goes. I'm sure you guys will let me know if you love it. I'm sure you guys will let me know if you think I need my head examined and I need to be fitted for a straitjacket. Either way, thank you for listening. I hope you've at least enjoyed it, even if you don't agree. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am